A journey of survival and hope. Anna and her husband, Mark, were very excited. They had planned a vacation to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary. Anna worked as a creative director at an advertising agency, and she was always busy. Mark was an engineer who loved adventure. They both felt tired from their daily routine, so this trip was a chance to rest and enjoy time together. On the day of their flight, they arrived at the airport early. Anna smiled as she handed her boarding pass to the flight attendant. Mark carried their small suitcase filled with summer clothes and swimsuits. They joked about swimming in clear blue water and sipping fresh fruit juice on a warm beach. They boarded Flight 772 and found their seats next to the window. Anna looked outside at the runway. She felt a small rush of excitement. Mark squeezed her hand. "This is our first big trip in a long time," he said with a grin. Soon, the airplane soared into the sky. The seatbelt sign went off, and passengers relaxed. Some people watched movies, while others took naps. Anna and Mark chatted about all the activities they would do at the tropical resort. They imagined diving, sunbathing, and tasting local seafood. Anna hoped to forget about her work emails for a week, and Mark wanted to discover new places. A couple of hours into the flight, the captain's voice interrupted a movie Anna was watching. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering some turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts." Anna glanced at Mark. He shrugged. "It's probably normal," he said. They buckled their seatbelts and continued chatting. However, the plane began to shake harder. The lights flickered, and some people gasped. A flight attendant hurried down the aisle, checking that everyone was seated. Suddenly, oxygen masks fell from above. Anna's heart beat fast. She grabbed Mark's hand tightly. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice shaky. The plane shook harder, and people started screaming. Loud wind rushed through the cabin, and Anna felt her seatbelt pulling tight around her waist. She held Mark's arm as tightly as she could, her whole body trembling with fear. "I'm right here," Mark said, trying to comfort her. But he also looked afraid. The plane jolted again, and Anna felt a huge downward drop. Then, everything went black in her mind. She lost consciousness. Anna opened her eyes and felt warm sunlight on her face. Her clothes were wet, and sand covered her legs and arms. She could hear the soft sound of waves hitting the shore. Her head hurt, and she felt dizzy. "Anna! You're awake!" a voice called. She blinked and saw Mark next to her. His shirt was ripped, and he looked very tired. He helped her sit up. "The plane crashed into the ocean," Mark said. "We're lucky to be alive and on this beach." Anna looked around. She saw pieces of luggage, broken seats, and other debris scattered along the sand. The remains of the plane were nowhere in sight, possibly sunk under the sea. She noticed an orange life jacket washed ashore, along with a first aid kit. Despite her shock, Anna felt a sense of relief. "We're alive," she said softly, hugging Mark tightly. Mark held her just as firmly, as if trying to hold on to the moment of comfort. "We are very lucky," he said quietly, his voice filled with sadness. "I don't know if anyone else survived." Anna wiped her face and forced herself to stay calm. She looked around at the plain wreckage on the beach. "We have to try to contact the outside world. Maybe we can find a working radio and figure out where we are." They began searching through the scattered wreckage, hoping to find something useful. Soon, Mark found a broken radio. He carefully tried to fix it, but each time he turned it on, the radio made only weak crackling sounds. There was no signal. Anna clenched her fists, her eyes full of disappointment and exhaustion. "It's useless," she said softly, her voice heavy with despair. Mark dropped the broken radio parts and sighed deeply, his tone bitter. "No one will know we're here. This place is too remote." Anna took a deep breath and raised her head, trying to sound steady. "We can't just wait here. We need to find out where we are. Maybe there's a village nearby, or we can find a high place to see the area." They walked along the beach, looking for clues. The salty sea breeze blew against their faces. After a while, they saw steep cliffs on both sides of the beach. In the middle was a thick jungle. "We should climb to a high spot and look around," Mark suggested, pointing to a nearby hill. Anna nodded, breathing heavily, and they carefully climbed the hill. When they reached the top, their hopes slowly faded. All they could see was endless ocean. There was nothing but the small island beneath them. "Oh no," Anna whispered, hugging herself tightly. "We're on a deserted island." Mark frowned deeply and stared at the horizon. His fists clenched tightly. He took a deep breath and said, "No one will find us here." The wind blew past them, making the situation feel even more hopeless. After a long silence, Anna spoke firmly. "Since no one will save us, we'll have to save ourselves." Mark looked into her determined eyes and nodded. "Then let's get started. We need to find water, food, and a safe place to sleep." Slowly, they made their way back down to the beach and started collecting anything that could help them survive. Anna and Mark searched through the wreckage, their hands shaking from exhaustion. They found a torn blanket, a dented metal pot, 2 cracked plastic bottles, and some crushed snack bags. Among the debris, Mark spotted a broken suitcase with clothes sticking out. "This will do," he said, his voice tired but hopeful. They decided to build a small shelter. Mark worked quickly, tying driftwood together with long vines, while Anna spread the blanket under a tall palm tree. As they sat down, the warm breeze brushed against their faces. "We'll figure this out," Anna whispered, more to herself than to Mark. Anna felt thirsty, so Mark cracked open a coconut using a sharp piece of metal. The coconut water tasted refreshing. They shared it and saved the rest for later. Anna also found some seashells. She wondered if they could eat clams or small crabs. That first night was difficult. They had no proper roof, and the wind made them cold. Anna could hardly sleep, worried about wild animals or storms. Mark tried to reassure her, but he was also scared. They held hands, listening to the ocean in the darkness. When the sun rose, Anna and Mark felt a bit more determined. They knew they needed fresh water, food, and a better shelter. They decided to explore their surroundings. The island was not very large, but it was covered with palm trees, thick bushes, and a small patch of jungle. The sand was soft, and they could see the endless ocean in every direction. Anna kept looking up at the sky, hoping to spot a plane or a helicopter. Mark created a simple fishing trap using a broken suitcase frame and some netting he found. He placed it in shallow water, hoping to catch fish. Anna collected more coconuts that had fallen onto the sand. She also used a piece of driftwood to write large letters on the beach. Help! They ate the snacks they had found in the plane debris and shared some more coconut water. Mark tried to joke. We wanted a beach holiday. Now we have one, but it's a bit too real. Anna smiled weakly, appreciating his attempt to lighten the mood. Each day, Anna and Mark tried to improve their situation. They woke up early to avoid the hottest sun. They gathered driftwood and dry leaves to keep a fire going, hoping the smoke would signal passing ships or aircraft. Mark checked the fishing trap, while Anna walked along the shore, collecting shells and debris that might be useful. They discovered that the tide was higher at certain times, washing new items ashore. One day, Anna found a small backpack with a lighter inside. She was thrilled. "This will make fire so much easier," she exclaimed. Mark also found a broken mirror, which they could use to reflect sunlight. They practiced aiming the reflection out to sea, hoping someone might see the flash of light. The crackling fire lit up the dark night, casting flickering shadows on the sand. Anna stared into the flames, her mind drifting to memories of her friends and the simple comfort of her bed. She could almost feel the soft pillow under her head and hear the familiar buzz of her phone. Mark poked at the fire with a stick, his eyes distant. "I miss my workshop," he muttered. "I could fix anything there. Now I can barely build a shelter." He sighed deeply, but then Anna placed a hand on his arm. "We're alive," she said softly, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. "And as long as we have each other, we'll find a way." After several days, their coconuts ran low. They needed more food and clean water. Mark suggested exploring deeper into the island. Early one morning they set off, carrying their small metal pot, a makeshift spear, a pointed stick, and the plastic bottles. The jungle was thick, and the ground was uneven. They saw lizards scurrying away. Bright birds flew overhead, and they heard rustling in the bushes. Anna felt nervous, but she trusted Mark. They walked carefully, pushing aside large leaves. Finally, they found a small stream of clear water. Anna knelt down and drank. It tasted fresh and pure. They filled their bottles, and Mark washed his face. "This is a lifesaver," he said, smiling. They continued exploring and noticed fruit trees with clusters of small, round fruits. Unsure if they were safe, Anna decided to test a tiny piece first. It tasted sweet. They waited a bit to ensure there was no bad reaction, then gathered a few more. Close to the stream, they discovered a rocky area with a shallow cave. It offered protection from wind and rain. Mark decided this spot could be a better home. They spent the day moving their few belongings from the beach to the cave. They used branches and leaves to build a simple wall at the cave's entrance. Anna found thick vines to tie the structure together. Mark wove palm leaves into a rough mat for sleeping. It was not luxurious, but it felt safer and drier than the beach. In the evenings, Anna boiled water in the metal pot, using small branches as fuel for a fire near the cave. They learned to catch fish in the stream and gather edible plants. Sometimes they found small crabs hiding under rocks, which added protein to their meals. Life on the island became a new routine. Their bodies grew sore from the work, but they felt more hopeful. "We are not just surviving," Mark said. "We're learning a new way of living." Anna agreed, though she wished for a bath and real food. Life on the island was still hard. Mosquitoes bit their arms and legs, leaving itchy bumps. Nighttime brought strange animal sounds, making Anna jump at every noise. Mark sometimes felt discouraged, especially when no rescue seemed to come. "What if no one ever finds us?" he asked one afternoon, staring at the ocean. Anna rested her hand on his shoulder. "We can't think like that," she said. "We have to stay strong. Remember, we have survived this long." They tried to keep track of days by marking lines on a flat stone with a sharp rock. They guessed about 3 weeks had passed since the crash. Anna wondered if family and friends were still searching. She imagined rescue teams scanning the sea for any sign of them. Despite the worries, they managed to find little successes. Mark built a better fishing net using the plane's seat belts and pieces of string from the backpack. Anna created a rain collection system by shaping large leaves into a funnel and placing containers underneath. When it rained, they gathered extra water. One evening, Anna decided to make a small celebration meal. She roasted fish with a few wild herbs and served it on a big palm leaf. Mark was delighted. "This is the best meal I've ever had on a deserted island," he joked, and they both laughed. They also discovered that laughter helped them handle stress. Sometimes, they told each other stories from their childhood. Other times, they imagined they were on a reality survival show. Mark pretended to interview Anna about her cooking, and Anna teased Mark about his new jungle hairstyle. Not all days were good. Sometimes the rain pounded the island for hours, flooding their cave. Their fire would go out, leaving them cold and wet. On those days, Anna felt hopeless. She missed her warm bed, her favorite food, and her friends' voices. Mark also felt low. He missed his workshop and the feeling of security. At times, they snapped at each other in frustration. "You didn't collect enough wood," Mark might say. Or Anna might complain. "You keep leaving fish bones near the cave. We'll attract bugs." But they always apologized and talked it out. They knew they had only each other. Holding grudges would do no good. They learned to support one another and show kindness, even when they felt weak. One day, as Anna walked along the beach, she found a smooth piece of driftwood. She picked it up, and an idea formed in her mind. Using a small knife-like shard from the plane, she carved the words, "Never lose hope." She showed it to Mark that evening. "Let's hang this in our cave," she said. "We need to see it every day." Mark nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you. It's a perfect reminder." They attached the wood sign to a rock near their sleeping area. Each morning, they saw the words and felt a spark of courage. A few weeks after they moved into the cave, Anna woke early to collect water from the rain catcher. She walked toward the beach to search for fresh coconuts. As she looked out at the horizon, she noticed a small dot on the water. It seemed to be moving. She ran back to the cave, shouting, "Mark, there's something out there!" Mark grabbed the broken mirror they had found and followed Anna to the shore. They saw it clearly now, a fishing boat far away. Mark aimed the mirror at the boat, reflecting sunlight. Anna waved a bright cloth above her head. "Over here!" she yelled, even though she knew they were too far to hear her voice. They watched, heart pounding, as the boat slowly changed direction toward them. Soon, the fishing boat drew close enough that they could see people on its deck. The fishermen stared in amazement at the sight of two castaways. They tossed out a rope, and Mark and Anna climbed aboard, nearly crying with relief. The fishermen offered them water, rice, and some fruit. Anna ate gratefully, tears of joy mixing with laughter. One of the fishermen used a radio to call the Coast Guard. "We found 2 survivors on an island," he said in a calm tone. Anna and Mark smiled. They were no longer alone. As the boat pulled away, Anna and Mark watched the island disappear behind them. The place that had been both a prison and a teacher grew smaller and smaller. Anna held Mark's hand, remembering the carved sign that still hung in their cave. "Never lose hope." Back on the mainland, Anna and Mark were taken to a hospital for checkups. They were underweight, sunburned, and covered in mosquito bites, but they were otherwise healthy. News reporters heard their story and wanted to interview them. Friends and family rushed to see them, crying and hugging them tightly. Anna felt overwhelmed. She was thankful to be alive and reunited with her loved ones. Mark felt proud that they had managed to survive. They shared stories of building the shelter, hunting for food, and keeping each other motivated. In the weeks that followed, Anna and Mark adjusted to normal life again. Anna went back to her advertising agency, but she saw things differently now. She refused to let work consume her. She made time for walks in the park, simple meals with friends, and visits to her parents. Mark returned to his engineering job, but he also started a small workshop in his garage where he taught basic survival skills. People were curious about his experiences. He showed them how to make a simple fishing net or how to start a fire with a few basic tools. Sometimes, late at night, Anna would remember the sound of the waves and the feeling of sand under her body. She would recall the fear and the hunger, but also the laughter and closeness she shared with Mark. She realized that her perspective on life had changed. Small annoyances seemed less important. What mattered was love, friendship, and hope. Anna and Mark decided to keep a piece of driftwood from the island that said, "Never lose hope." They hung it on the living room wall. Every time they looked at it, they felt grateful for their second chance. One sunny weekend, they invited friends over for a barbecue. The conversation turned to their time on the island. Anna and Mark spoke about the difficulties, but also the small joys. They showed their guests how to crack open a coconut, just like they did on the beach. "You two are so strong," a friend said. "I can't imagine living like that." Anna smiled. "We never thought we could survive it either. But we learned that people can adapt to almost anything when they have each other and a reason to keep going." Over time, life settled into a new normal. Anna and Mark traveled to different places. They went camping in the mountains and visited lakes and forests. They wanted to stay connected to nature. Each trip reminded them of their island ordeal, but also their ability to endure. Once in a while, Anna would have dreams about the crash, waking up with her heart racing. Mark would hug her, reminding her they were safe now. Their bond grew even stronger than before. They learned to appreciate every meal, every shower, and every moment with loved ones.